Most people read to escape, but escapism is just another way of drifting. The right book should wake you up, not put you to sleep. And every once in a while, a novel comes along that doesn't just offer a story, it completely disrupts the way that you think, and it makes you see the world in a whole new way. Christopher Priest's The Glamour is one of those books. It doesn't sweep you away from reality. It doesn't take you to strange new alien worlds. It doesn't take you to some scary new landscape with a weird monster. It bends reality just enough that you start questioning what is reality. You start questioning your perceptions. Are you actually able to perceive reality correctly? And it also makes you realize that reading is less about escaping and more about waking up slowly, strangely, sometimes uncomfortably, but with a sense that the world around you is suddenly a bit sharper and maybe a little bit different than what you thought. So today I'm going to talk about that experience and why this kind of reading really, really matters. For me, The Glamour was an invitation to wake up. The book doesn't just let you settle into a single reality. Christopher Priest intentionally refuses to anchor you as the reader. Identities shift, memories blur, the narrative contradicts itself in ways that are very deliberate, and you are aware that it's happening. You're aware that suddenly something was wrong, like this is not what happened before, but it's not confusing, but it is destabilizing in a really productive way. And I think that it really mirrors the way that our own minds construct a sense of reality and how our sense of reality and our perceptions change over time, sometimes selectively, often imperfectly, and also invisibly. And if you've read the book, you'll see the pun that I just made there. I'm very clever. So, it's a kind of book that really loosens your grip on certainty. And it's a very, very interesting and very compelling read. So to give you a little bit of a synopsis, I'm not going to give it away because it's a pretty thin book, but there's so much packed into this story. And I don't want to give it away because if I give it away, chances are you won't read it and it'll just feel ruined for you. But it's the story of a man named Richard Gray, who was a photographer, a photojournalist, and then he went on to become a filmmaker and a video maker, often for news outlets. So he does a lot of world traveling. He's pretty dapper, pretty dash kind of guy. But he's been involved in a bombing, and as a result of that bombing, he's been physically hurt quite a bit, quite significantly. But more importantly, his mind and his memory, he's having trouble with his memory, and he's lost a lot of his confidence and things like that. So as the story starts, we meet him as he's recovering, going through physical rehab, and he's undergoing some hypnotic treatments to try to sort of reactivate his memories. And as part of this kind of reactivation of his memories, he's introduced to a woman who he's told was his lover, but he has no recollection. And yet he does have a recollection, and yet he doesn't have a recollection. And we learn that she was his lover, and then she wasn't his lover, and that she's someone completely different. I'm not going to give away any more, but it's an absolute just mind-bending story, but it's not done in a really sensationalist way. It's very deliberate. It's very controlled. And Christopher Priest is absolutely in control of the narrative. And as you read the book, he is creating an opportunity for you to sort of engage with that as the reader. It's just done so well and done so artfully. So Christopher Priest has written a book that makes you aware of your own perception, and the novel becomes a mirror for your attention and for your perception. And you start to notice what you assume, what you overlook, and how your mind very easily fills in gaps or creates, kind of fills in the gaps of stories, without even questioning them. So in the book and through the narrative, Christopher Priest really makes you aware of your own perception. The novel is actually really a mirror for your attention and for your consciousness and for your perception, and where is the line between your consciousness and reality. And how does perception act as the kind of interface between the two? So you start noticing what you assume and what you overlook and how easily you fill in gaps without questioning them. This book is the opposite of escapism. This book forces you to participate. It's a kind of choose your own adventure for your interpretation of reality. And it's a participation that, it's not just a narrative trick. It's actually the foundation of what makes the book so mentally refreshing. And the refreshing feeling comes from a kind of cognitive tension, not from comfort. As you read the book, you're aware that what you thought was happening in the book is completely different and you were wrong. And where you thought things were going, they're not going there. And the book doesn't just transport you, the way fantasy does or the way typical science fiction does. It doesn't take you to strange new worlds. It doesn't take you to, strange castles with weird wizards or monsters. Instead, it really activates your mind through ambiguity and through very deliberate but very subtle misdirection. And there's a real pleasure, I think, that comes from that. There's a pleasure that comes from being aware that you're wrong, that what you thought was happening isn't happening. And so you stick with it to see like, oh, wait a minute, where are we going? But it's not a whodunit. It's not a mystery. It's something that's just so much bigger. And like I keep saying, it's really about perception. It's really about reality. And that leads to the bigger idea of what reading can be, one that goes, far beyond any single novel. And that's that challenging reading matters. Reading really needs to sharpen your mind, not just soothe it. And that goes back to what I said at the beginning, that escapism really lulls the mind. It just dulls your perception. Literature should be challenging. It should wake you up. Books like The Glamour, and there's hundreds and hundreds of other books like this. This is just one of them. But this book really reminds us that attention is a skill and that most of modern life tries to take that away from you. Most of modern life is designed to dull your mind, to take your mind away from you, to dilute it and to dissolve it. And you must retain that. Otherwise, you won't know who you are. But, Christopher Priest, he adds another layer to this conversation, one that I think borders on the philosophical. And that's that The Glamour shows us how easily we drift through life unaware. Throughout the book, there's this idea of invisibility, of the unnoticed presence or the unseen influence. And it becomes a metaphor for how reality becomes filtered for us. Sometimes we do that intentionally with our mind. We intentionally tune certain things out. Sometimes it's a survival skill. But also in the modern world, what we see and what we know are very carefully curated and very carefully crafted. And we are very aware of this now with our algorithmic life. And the book exposes how our daily experience really is filtered, and it's based on assumptions, and it's based on heavy editing. And a lot of that is done out of habit. And what the scary thing is that now people are doing it for us. And once a book makes you aware of that, it's much more than fiction. It becomes a way of thinking. It becomes a way of looking at the world around you. It becomes a way of looking at reality. And so I think it's really important that a challenging book like this, to look at it and realize that it can function like meditation. It can bring you back to awareness. And that comes back to this idea that I keep saying in this video, that dullness and distraction, they really shrink the mind, they dull consciousness, and they can even just completely take your consciousness away. And that's not the way it should be. You should be thinking. You should question your perceptions. You should question what you see. You should question what you know. And you need to train your attention to become aware of that. The Glamour really quietly insists that you notice not just the story, not just the narrative, not just the characters or the plot, but that you become aware of yourself as you read it. And that's why a book like this, I think, is going to stick with me for years to come. I mean, I literally just finished reading it this morning, and I just haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I started reading it. And it's a book that's really changed how I look at the world. And it's a book that's reminded me of the incredible power of writing and generally just of art in general, but specifically about writing. There is something very unique about writing and the way that it activates the mind. The Glamour shows us that reading is so much more than just entertainment. It's choosing how awake you want to be. Some books wake us up and shake us into awareness, while other books lull us. They kind of put us in that river and we just float away and drift off. And the books that we choose reflect the life or the mindset that we're choosing. So here's what I'm curious about. How do you as a reader choose who you want to be? Do you want to be someone who escapes or someone who seeks clarity? I'm honestly fascinated by this. I'm curious to hear everyone's ideas about this. No right or wrong answer, no judgments. So share your thoughts below. I'd love to have a real conversation about what reading can do for us. And in case you don't know, my name is Carl, and this has been Please Read Your Book.